Hello and welcome to another session of the book club, Gustavo's online book club, reading the Be a Plant-Based Woman Warrior, okay, by Anne and Jane Esselstyn. And let's see, we have started chapter 3, okay? Today is the 5th session. Tomorrow, Sunday, is the 6th. And then Monday is going to be our last one. Remember that then after that, I'll be sending an email with the dates, which is not going to be long, to start the next one. I think that you will really enjoy this book. And so America Goes Vegan by Glenn Mercer. Let's get started today. And yesterday we talked about pantry and fridge staples, things that we really need to have in the kitchen. And of course, there are some things that go with our preferences. I don't have some of those things listed there because some of those things I either don't care for the flavor or I don't, or I take care with anytime I can keep the fat content down, anytime I can do that, I do it. We also talk about the importance of spices, herbs, and condiments and vinegars. And now we are on page 48. Okay, so this all may seem like really basic, simple, which it is. That's the good news. My philosophy is we need to keep things simple, delicious and simple, and we need to know how to make it varied, how to add a variety for whenever we feel that we need or want variety. But keeping things simple is my motto, okay? I think that instead of complicated or elaborate recipes have a place for special events or a day that you feel like inspired and want to do something a little more elaborate. Otherwise, if we could keep our meals to 4 or 5 ingredients and just have meal ideas rather than recipes, we will stay committed and on the wagon and on track a lot more easily. That is exactly what I do in my 7-day detox and reset program. Okay, so later on, I'd like to say a few words, maybe tomorrow, for those of you who haven't heard about it. It's really, really good. It's really fun. And you just leave knowing exactly what to do and how to do it, which is how I felt 10 years ago after I attended a wonderful program by Dr. McDougall. That feeling of empowerment, of knowing what to do and how to do it, and have all the questions answered. So that's what we do in my 7-day program. So now on page 48, let's talk about some basics, important basics. One of them is how to cook sweet potatoes. And Jane and Anne here say sweet potatoes are the foundation of many of our meals. And so we have a few ways we cook them depending on how much time we have, at that moment. Let me emphasize this. Many of you already know, so I'm sorry for the repetition, but let me emphasize the importance of sweet potatoes. First of all, there are numerous kinds, so you could really never get tired. There are so many types. You will find the one or the ones that you like. But potatoes are a superfood. They're a super ultra food. They have all of the nutrition that we need. We could actually live eating sweet potatoes and nothing else for the rest of our lives. And Sweet potatoes stop cravings. Sweet potatoes create bulk, which keeps us full. Sweet potatoes have a lot of fiber and water, which take out a lot of the toxins out of the body. I mean, sweet potatoes, you've got to eat them as if possible every day. And they are delicious. You've got to just learn a few little tricks to change them and be able to eat them every day or as many days as you can per week. So I totally agree here with the Esselstyn. So what are some of the ways that they cook sweet potatoes? Then I'll tell you my favorite. Let me lower this a little. Okay. So it is, one of them is wrapped in foil and oven baked. Okay. Another one is microwaved, which I don't do. I just don't do it. Not, I like them in the oven. Or just naked and boiled, it says here. Anne, who loves all types of sweet potatoes, declares baking in foil as the best way to prepare sweet potatoes. So to bake whole and wrapped, you've got to get the oven at 350 Fahrenheit. You know, it could be 350, 375. I really don't think it makes so much difference. And then you wrap each one of the sweet potatoes in foil and place them on the middle rack. You've got to place a sheet pan under the potatoes because sometimes this amazing juice ooze out of them as they bake, and it is like this thick syrup, very sweet. And you've got to bake them for an hour or more. Now, this will depend on the size of the sweet potatoes but they have to be very soft to the touch, not just kind of soft. Well, at least I agree with them. I like them very soft to the touch. You will have incredibly moist sweet potatoes that nearly melt in your mouth. That's totally true. Although I don't use foil. In this case, I don't think it's dangerous because you know, the potatoes have the skin on, but I use foil very, very little. Yes, Helen, you wrote here, sweet potatoes are your friend. Oh, yes, sweet potatoes allowed me to lose 75 pounds. So I owe a lot to those sweet potatoes and potatoes. And okay, now, so that's a perfectly fine, great way to bake them. To bake sweet potato cubes, okay, just preheat the oven a little bit more. Well, it was 400, yeah. Oh, okay. Okay, I skipped one. To bake whole and unwrapped sweet potato. That's how I bake them. I don't wrap them, and I bake them whole. So the oven will need to be a little bit hotter, about 400 degrees. And you're gonna need a sheet pan with parchment paper. I don't use the other sheets. What are they called? Well, anyway, you know what I'm talking about, the baking sheets that you can reuse. Because sometimes Silpat, yes. Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Silicone or any other. I mean, it doesn't have to be that brand. Silicone mats. Sometimes I've had one or twice ruined because of the juice being so hot, like hot caramel, and it was hard to get it off. And anyway, so I use parchment paper. So place and when I bake sweet potatoes, I bake a lot because you can't just turn on the oven for 1 or 2. So you can put on a rack, you can put sweet potatoes on another potatoes, and you can have them in the refrigerator anytime you're hungry. or to take with you in your purse or in a bag or wherever you're going. So you bake them also, well, 40 minutes to an hour, depending on the size. Again, you've got to touch them until they're soft, and then they're very moist also, very sweet. And that's how I make them. Then potato cubes, well, I haven't done that, but I might give it a try. So again, you line a sheet pan with parchment paper, you chop your sweet potatoes. You see, that's already another step, and I try to not to eliminate steps. But if you bake them in cubes, then it's a little easier to add them on top of salads, for example, and to put them on top of rice and beans or things like that. So that's and so you're going to bake those for less time. Obviously, it's going to be 15 or 20 minutes. You can also boil them. So you bring a large pot of water to a boil. If you're using whole sweet potatoes, boil for, I would say, about 45 minutes, okay, until soft in the center. If you're using the little cubes, the 1-inch cubes, then in 15 minutes they will be ready. Boiled are good, okay, but roasted, to me, it's better. They're juicy, and the flavor is more concentrated. If you bake and wrap, do you pick with a fork? Yes, thank you for saying that. But honestly, sometimes I have forgotten to pick, to prick with a fork, and that it didn't explode. So, but it would, be a good idea to do that. Now, you do need to prick with a fork if you put them in the microwave, because then they can actually explode. Okay, so when we need to hustle, they say, and get food cooked quickly, which sometimes it happens. Okay, so they say we use the microwave. Pierce a medium sweet potato with a fork, place it in the microwave, and cook for 8 minutes. If you're cooking more than one sweet potato, add 3 or 4 minutes per sweet potato. And then again, just feel them so that they're soft. It is ready to be eaten whole, cubed, sliced, or mashed. I don't know if you've ever tried mashed sweet potatoes, but mashed sweet potatoes are great. And then on top of them, you can put peas, you can put broccoli, which I think is the best combination that there is, sweet potatoes and broccoli. You can also make mashed potatoes with mashed sweet potatoes. It's also a great combination. So there you go. You have several ways to cook these sweet potatoes. And more than that, what I would encourage you to do is to explore. Just go one day to the grocery store, or maybe go to 2 or 3 different stores and get 2 or 3 of each type and just bake them, and then do a tasting test. Okay, maybe do a tasting party, okay, and see which ones you like more, which ones some of your friends or family like more. Some of them have more of a vanilla flavor. Some of them are dense. Some of them are creamy. It's sweet potatoes topped with hummus. Seeing this is delicious. There are so many ways to eat sweet potatoes. Then they are excellent with ginger balsamic. Oh yeah, and then the chocolate balsamic, amazing. So it says here, Chef Bravo cuts off each end of the potato rather than prick them. Okay, all right, I didn't know that. When selecting sweet potatoes at the store, I noticed some are very large. I wonder if that indicates they are too old. Is it better to buy the medium? Not too old. Because they're not gonna keep growing in the store, but maybe they just they just were left, in the plant longer, and so they kept growing. What I wonder sometimes is if it makes a difference if they're smaller, if the flavor is more concentrated or sweeter. But honestly, I have not proved that that philosophy there. I don't think it makes much difference, other than the real large ones will take a lot longer to cook. But I tend to buy medium to medium small, but kind of a medium size, and not really huge ones. All right. So what about then potatoes? Well, same thing. You have several types of potatoes you can try. Okay, Cheryl says, when I first started eating them, which is only since being in the 7-day detox, I noticed many are moldy on the ends. That's bad, right? Yes, if that happens, which happened to me today, unbelievable. I just cut the end, and then I look and I keep cutting until the potato looks totally clean inside. But yeah, don't eat a moldy sweet potato that has moldy ends. Okay, so potatoes. Well, we could talk about Yukon potato type, and also the russet type, even though, then we have the red ones, and we have, I don't know, I mean, those two are the ones I use most. One thing that you may not know, I don't know, is this. Yukon potatoes are called medium starch potatoes, and russet are called high starch potatoes, the amount of starch that they have. If you're diabetic and you're nervous about the starch, which really you shouldn't, because what a diabetic needs to be nervous about is the amount of fat that they're eating, which is interference with insulin absorption. But if it makes you nervous, then go with the medium starch Yukon, gold potatoes. And there is a way to get rid of some of the starch if you want. You will need to cut the potatoes in several pieces, and then put them in a bowl with cold water. Let them sit there for like 10 minutes or so, and then you will get rid of that water. You can also, you'll see that the water is kind of, it's not clear anymore. Well, that's some of the starch. But, starch is what keeps us full. It's what keeps us energetic. It what keeps us energy. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. But that's one of the difference. The other difference between these two is that the Yukon seems to be more dense and creamy when you make mashed potatoes, and the russet ones seem to be more fluffy and soft. They can also be creamy. I use some of the water, if needed, the water that I used to cook them in, to mash them. But so it says here, we cook Yukon Gold potatoes by the stack. Having cooked potatoes in the fridge, ready to go, is such a bonus. You can add them to salads, build your own bowls, which later on, if you want to go to page 215, you can see several bowls that you can build yourself, or buys no rule sandwiches, page 122, or just dip them into hummus. We, well, the hummus we love, that it says here, that is on page 91, which I'm going to show you today. So 1 5-pound stack of Yukon Gold potatoes. Okay. For those of you who may be in other countries and you don't use pounds, that is about 2 kilos and 300 grams or so. So you can bake them, you can boil them, you can microwave them, but here it says, I'm on page 49, and it says to bake, preheat the oven at 400, pierce the potatoes skin before baking to keep them from blowing up inside your oven. Place the potatoes directly on the rack or on a parchment-lined sheet pan, and that's what I do. Cook for about 40 minutes or until a fork easily pierces the thickest part of the potatoes. So you've got to go to the thickest part, and the fork or the knife needs to go in really easily, and you know it's done. Turn the oven off and leave the potatoes in the oven until ready to serve. Sometimes they can stay there for hours and hours. Like I can make them at noon and then eat one or two or whatever, and I leave them there. And then for dinner, they're still warm. Okay, so you can leave them there. Then later you can put them in the fridge. This bakes, this bakes in some moisture or somehow makes them moist and delicious. If you're not eating the potatoes that day, store them in the fridge. To microwave, pierce 2 or 3 potatoes and place them in the microwave. Cook for about 8 minutes. You're gonna have to check anyway because it may differ. Okay, so Cindy says, I use my Instant Pot to cook sweet potatoes. I actually cooked a very large sweet potato tonight and it was delicious. Oh, okay. Yeah, if you have an Instant Pot, that's another way to make them. Very good. Another staple in my kitchen, there are several greens all the time. But kale and spinach are there pretty much all the time. So how to cook kale? Kale can be difficult to eat because it can be hard and tough. So we like to cook it until it is soft and easy to chew and swallow, it says. Yes, I agree. It usually takes about 5 minutes, I think. Our logic is that if it is easier to eat, we will eat more of it. If you prefer kale blanched or just lightly steamed, great. We like it cooked a lot longer. This is just the way we roll with kale. And okay, so the 2 bunches of kale, you kind of get them by the stem and you strip the leaves, and you can tear those leaves into little bite sizes, and you place the kale in a large pot of boiling water, cover and cook for about 5 minutes until tender. The trick here is to cook it until it tastes just right for you. Okay, drain in a colander. Okay, serve warm alone or with any other dressing or vinegar or hummus or whatever pleases you, so that you will eat the kale, which has so many nutrients. Another delicious thing that you can have in your refrigerator to put on just about anything is caramelized onions. That's on page 50, okay? And she says, these are such a staple in our kitchen, really. You can add them to just pick anything, you can add them. It's a great thing to have. So what do they do? 1 large onion. I would definitely do more because you want to have leftovers. So for me, just 1 large onion is not enough. For me, I have to do at least 2, if not 3. But you will dice them, or julienne, whatever preferences you have, and you place a large pan over high heat or medium high heat. If you have a non-stick pan, Overheating is not good for the pan. Okay, remember that. When it is hot, add the onions and stir until they start to brown. Onions tend to release a lot of liquid and their own sugars. So don't be too quick to add water. Let them cook. If you notice that they are sticking, then go about 2 tablespoons at a time of hot water, if possible. Okay, just add them and keep stirring. Slowly reduce the heat while continuing to stir the onions. Add a teaspoon of water and continue stirring until the onions are browned and cooked through. Here they say anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes, but this really depends on how caramelized you want them. If you really want them caramelized, it's going to take maybe a little more. But if you're making one onion, probably 15 minutes is enough. Many times, the pan that I have, which is large, is full of onions because then they reduce to almost nothing. So in that case, I'm cooking them for like 30 minutes. Okay, you can serve them warm or store covered in the fridge until ready to use. Also, it says you can add 2 tablespoons of balsamic vinegar toward the end of cooking the onions and stir until they're uniformly well coated. I think that especially if you have balsamic vinegar that it's kind of sweet, it's going to bring out the sweetness of the onion, makes it delicious, delicious. And finally, here, I think, yeah, on page 51, it says how to cook onions, garlic, and mushrooms. Did you have any questions? I see Joe with the, okay, sorry. I saw somebody with the microphone on. Okay, this is one thing that I do a lot, I make often, because it's another mixture, one of those witch's brews kind of thing I call, because I just add them to almost everything. The combinations of onions, garlic, and mushrooms. Of course, you have to like mushrooms, but if not, you could do onions, garlic, and peppers, like red, yellow, and green. Okay, you could do that. That's kind of like the fajita mix that I make, which is in my YouTube channel too. So you will need a nonstick pan for this. Other pans may work, but you may need to add water if the pan gets too dry or the onions start to stick. So again, I will double or probably triple this recipe here because I use it so much. Remember that mushrooms are the only things in nature that have vitamin D. No other vegetable or thing has it. You would have to buy things where the vitamin D has been added. But if you want vitamin D, of course, is made by the sun when it touches our skin. That's the best way. That's how we get vitamin D. But eating mushrooms is a way to help a little bit. Okay, so what it says here is 1 large onion diced or julienne, your preference, 2 cloves garlic minced, and 4 ounces of mushrooms sliced. Yeah, okay, so place a large nonstick pan over medium-high heat. And first you're gonna add the onions, okay? And you're gonna cook them until they're translucent, sorry. Once they're kind of, translucent, that's the word. Slowly reduce the heat to medium, but keep stirring, okay? And then you're going to add the garlic. Add the garlic once the onions are soft and continue stirring. I would probably stir it for another 5 minutes. And finally, add the mushrooms to the pan and continue stirring. The mushrooms lose quite a bit of fluid. They're mostly water. And so you won't need to add water. Oh, and if you do, it's going to be very little. That mixture is just great. It's delicious. You can eat it by itself. I love that mixture with mashed potatoes. But I will also mix it with my cooked kale. I'll give it a quick saute with the mixture, and that's how I do it. So that's pretty much the book. Okay, the rest of this book is recipes. After all, it's a recipe book. This has more uh, topics to talk about. It has a lot of recipes too. But in this book that we're reading, there are a lot of recipes. So tomorrow, Sunday, and Monday, I'm going to talk about other things that I think are important, that are pertinent in this book, but I will do some more cooking demos. So what I did today, which I haven't done in a little while, is I made hummus. And if you go to page 91, on page 91, you have the basic hummus, okay? And then they give you variations, the lemon hummus, balsamic hummus, black bean hummus, roasted garlic, and hickory smokehouse. And of course, we also have red bell pepper and black olive hummus, and we have many different types of hummus that we can make. I chose to make the basic, the black bean, and the hickory smokehouse hummus because I've been wanting to make the black bean for a while, so I haven't. And the hickory smokehouse, I have never made it, so that's what I chose. They were all very creamy and very delicious. And so what I did for dinner was chop vegetables like carrots and cauliflower and cucumbers, and then I had some cherry tomatoes and radishes, and I just dipped them in all three, and it was great. Okay, so let me tell you what I don't put in my hummus. I don't put tahini. But that's personal. Okay, that's my personal choice. Like I said at the beginning of the session, anytime I can get by using less fat content, I do it because I do have a tendency genetically. My body wants to gain weight, and so I'm one of those people that have to continue to be careful if I want to be healthy and maintain a good weight. So I don't add the tahini. But if weight is not a problem, and if you're not going, I could have added. I eat a little bit of this and not every day, and then who knows when I'm going to make it again. So, but I chose not to add that. And the only other thing that I didn't add was the hot sauce because I didn't care for that, but you can do that. So I did add, instead of 2 tablespoons, I put 1 tablespoon of low sodium tamari, but I usually don't even add that because I don't want to have sodium. But this time I did it, and I put 1 tablespoon. So let me just show you this. This didn't take much time at all. Let me mention one thing that is important. If you're going to use cans, okay, like it says here, 15-ounce can of, well, it says low salt or no salt chickpeas. I really encourage you to get no salt. But if not, then you want to wash them 2 or 3 times. You won't get all the sodium out, but it'll help. It's so easy to cook your own chickpeas. I think it's worth it, and they do taste better. You can cook them. When I know I'm going to make hummus, I cook those chickpeas more than other times until they're really soft so that they can be creamy. So if you use a 15-ounce can, that's all you use. But if you don't use cans, remember that 1 can equals 1.5 cups. So if you, or if you have, no, that wouldn't work either. I was thinking you could put it in an empty can and measure. I would just just measure. That's what you'll see me. That should do 1.5 cups equals 1 can. I do soak the chickpeas. Yeah, I soak them overnight. Okay, so let me show you. This was exciting. And let's see if I have it here. Okay. If you want the hummus to be thicker, instead of 1/4 cup of the aquafaba, I would put just a little bit, maybe a tablespoon, and see if your high-speed blender blends it, and if it needs a little more liquid, add another tablespoon, and you can do it that way. So let's see, someone wrote something here. Okay. All right. Well, now I have those 3 types of hummus in my refrigerator, and I am very happy. I know tomorrow I'm gonna eat them, and we can use those hummus to make salad dressings. So let's say that you put clear, I don't know, like apple cider vinegar and a little bit of mustard and maybe something like the juice of an orange, something sweeter, or the juice of peaches in a can, and then you want that salad dressing to be more creamy and not just liquid. Then you add like a tablespoon of one or two, and you shake it in a bottle or in a jar, and there you have now a creamy salad dressing. Is it 1.5 cups of chickpeas? One, yes. That's what I was following the recipe. So what I want to make sure that you all understand is that you can use cans, but if you want to, make your own chickpeas, for anything, the regular cans, they all in recipes, they equal 1.5 cups, 1.5 cups for any can that is about 15 ounces is 1.5 cups. Do you have any questions about any of these recipes or the ones I've made or anything about this chapter? Any comments? I have been selecting the recipes according to my philosophy, which is keep things simple. If possible, I like to always cook dishes that have anywhere from 3 to 5 ingredients only. And I mean, on a regular basis. Every now and then I like to do a complicated recipe that has, 15 different things, but usually it's just 3 to 5 ingredients. And that's what I'm doing. That's why I'm choosing those recipes here. If you make any other recipes, or if you have made any, or if you will make any, and I would love for you to share with us your thoughts about the recipes that you've made. Well, if there's anything else, if there isn't anything else, then I will see you all tomorrow, Sunday. And once again, thank you for joining me. It's a pleasure. Good night.